Yes.
Looks like I just got here. Looks like I just ran in.
I'm looking at that
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at that camera. That one is doing it. This one is our laptop. That's our microphone.
Happy Merri Hour. Is that you?
That's me.
Look at you in your collared shirt because we're going for a fancy dinner tonight.
I'm trying to minimize the get up I have to do later after this while I'm running. We're running out after this.
Something about us going out for a nice meal tonight is making me think that it's like a holiday celebratory meal. So I had to, I pulled this out of my Sundance pile because it felt like wintry and like Christmassy, even though it's like not Christmas colors. But
I almost wore Christmas colors.
I did not wear
Christmas I would have been all for that. I almost wore my Hawkeye sweater, but I didn't think they'd let me into the fancy restaurant with it, so I didn't.
Do you have any of the horror sweaters from Mondo?
I have. I have the Freddy one, and I also have it's not like a traditional Christmas sweater, but I have an Ash vs. Evil Dead one too.
I have Freddy, I have Jason, I have Gremlins.
Of course,
I think I have one more. I think I have 4 of them. I don't know. I can give you one of them if you would like them.
I don't know.
You're like, I want to go Christmas horror later.
Maybe I might want to lean into this a little harder.
I wore my brand new Krampus shirt yesterday.
You
saw
did.
that.
It's so cool.
I know.
I wanted to wear my new Scream T-shirt that came, like the one that we finally ordered that Ian told me about. I wanted to wear it last night, but it was inappropriate for the event, for the Q&A I was hosting, and then I felt like it was inappropriate to wear to a fancy restaurant tonight. So I'm just like waiting and waiting.
The dress code said just don't wear like beachwear and look like a bum.
I
guess. Any offensive smelling clothing. Like they really stressed that. So I'm like, I don't know if people are just like walking in, just like not showering or something.
Is that a real thing?
There can't be any words on it at all either.
Oh, they said no graphic, no words.
I read the whole thing to you.
Yeah. Oh no, there's like a strict dress code on it. Like
I should have read this more. Like, am I okay? Am I okay?
You're okay. Yes, we're all okay.
All right, let's get to some super chats.
Boom, boom, boom.
Ryan is here. Wait, it's gonna disappear. I clicked it. I got too excited.
Oh, you clicked it twice?
Because it didn't come up fast enough. And click, and you fix something. Yes. But it doesn't really work like that. Hello, Matt and Perri. Happy Saturday. Very happy Saturday to you too, Ryan. And we got your next one here. So after staying up till midnight on Monday morning and freaking out for 45 minutes to try to get my tickets while ticket sites crash, I finally got my tickets around 1 a.m. and have reserved seats. I assume it means Spider-Man. Yeah.
Spider-Man.
I was watching a lot of that unfold on Twitter, and like as obnoxious as it sounds, I just sat back and I'm like, thank God I do this for work.
I know. Yeah. Again, the privilege is that, but watching that, it was crazy. Like that was like film festivals, even like the Beyond Fest and stuff, watching those sites go crazy. But this is Spider-Man. Like this is literally in mainstream theaters on mainstream sites and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh boy, like this is, well, and it's also how much people are anticipating it and how many people are trying to buy tickets. Like that's the real factor of this.
It's also the very first time we're re-experiencing this. I was about to say post-pandemic, but during the pandemic, but
post-pandemic.
I really do want to be able to see the movie again. I know I'm going to want tickets and want to go again, but like my stress level is like up to my eyeballs right now. So I couldn't do that to myself when the sales started.
No, I get that 100%. And, I think it's the thing too. Like it's just for opening weekend tickets, right? Like,
I think so.
Yeah. So, I
think so.
Listen, if I see it again, I will gladly wait until later on. I will gladly wait until the tickets are a little more available. But then again, I don't know, like with the PlayStation 5, like I was going to say, like I sat there going, oh, it's got to be easier to buy eventually. But like, it's still sold out. And that's almost a year later. We got through like a whole holiday season.
Oh, wow.
Like, you still
I was not aware of that.
No, you can still barely find one. Like my friend Brad has been trying forever and he'll still like go to walk to Best Buy and try to get one. So I'm wondering if we are just in a world right now where it's just gonna be harder to get things like that.
Well, I mean, there's supply chain problems. Like I can't even get my iced coffee anymore.
I just got my first notification of I joined the Waxwork basically club, I guess to call it, like membership.
Yeah.
And I think it's 7 vinyls throughout the year. I got some other cool stuff with it. But the whole idea is like, you get your vinyls before they come out. And, the year's almost over. Like the year's almost over and I still haven't gotten one again because of supply chain issues that are very reasonable.
Fear Street one.
No, Fear Street's another one that's like still slacking. But like,
want it.
I just got my email for the first one. It's a Bloodsport vinyl and the soundtrack.
I think I saw that email.
Yeah, so I get those through the club, but like I just got it and like I'm all excited again because I totally forgot I'm still owed like 8 vinyls on that, and I still have other ones coming from other sites. So like it's a cool like little Christmas present where I'm like, oh, that's right, all these things I purchased are finally coming now.
Yeah, okay. I'm still waiting for my Fear Street one. Ryan's back here with another. Fandango has reported that Spider-Man No Way Home has surpassed Endgame in pre-sales. So what does this mean for theaters and for the box office? Let me just look up that report real quick so I get the wording correctly.
Disney takes the highest percentage out of any studio.
With the Sony arrangement? Yeah.
Like even without Sony involved, Disney takes the highest percentage because they can.
That makes sense. But I mean, like, for box office too, does it just surpass Endgame alone? Like, I don't know.
Spider-Man No Way Home is already set to sweep at the box office before its December debut. The movie, which debuts in the theaters on December 17th, scored Fandango's best day of pre-sale tickets since 2019's Avengers Endgame on Monday.
Still not positive if so. I mean, like, they beat him for the day, so obviously, like, they had a very good day of pre-sales. The longevity and again, like, the idea of Endgame being the be all end all of one chapter in the MCU. I still think that has the legs, and it also has the amount of people that said they saw it 3 or 4 times. Like, we can't negate that as well.
Yeah,
because again, Endgame was that event. It was that big culmination of so many stories and plot lines going on in the MCU. I think that's a movie that people were really happy to go see again and again and again, because like that was a moment. I don't know if this is going to be a moment in that way. It will be a tremendous movie, don't get me wrong, but like I don't know if it lives up to that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how all of this pans out. Like, longevity is definitely key with overall box office, and the movie's got to be good and people need to go to see it multiple times for it to hit, all-time levels like an Avengers Endgame. Sure. But, I'm curious to see what the end results are for its opening weekend debut, because we loosely discussed it last week when we were talking about that long-range forecast. And, it's exciting to see numbers like that, but I'm hesitant to go too high just because we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And even though there is clearly a whole lot of enthusiasm, I'm afraid to go back to those big numbers confidently just yet.
I don't think we can yet. There's no data. Well, there's little data to support that, and especially on an Endgame level. No,
Endgame is just
there's too much on that. But I still think it's going to absolutely crush the box office. I think it's absolutely going to do tremendous.
I feel like every time I talk about box office, I get a little sad that I can't talk about it the same way that I used to. Like, with enough confidence in how I feel about the numbers that I'm predicting, and also just because like it's changed and it's dropped so significantly. So if there is a tinge of sadness in my comments, that's where it's coming from right now.
And we also do have to be very realistic. I mean, there is another strain of COVID that might chase people away from theaters again, depending on how that is handled and how that happens. So it's like there are so many things that can still happen between now and then, just in society and the world. So I cannot go farther on that one. All
right. Do we want to do our title topic?
I think we should. Let's do one of the trailers first. Okay. We did just get dumped on by a bunch of trailers that we hadn't even mentioned.
Can we talk about the trailer that I was so excited to show you just now?
You lead it up. I'm just going to turn my AC off just in case it's blowing into the mic.
All right. Let me actually pull the article up so I can give you guys all the necessary information. So what's happening is CCXP is underway right now, and I don't know if the Sony panel has completely concluded and they've moved on to the next studio, but stuff is stuff was dropping during my drive over here. So we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse opening. Oh, it's the opening scene. Shows Gwen's reunion with Miles. You can find the actual video on Collider right now if you're looking for it. But Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And that first bit of footage they dropped looks spectacular. I was just I watched that Into the Spider-Verse so many times when it came out. I must have rewatched it and was freeze framing just to admire the animation more times than I can count. Now I think the same thing is going to happen here, because this trailer, or this opening scene plus trailer, whatever you want to call it, this is beautiful. It's beautiful. I still love the animation that we saw from the original film. And then given what they're doing with the story here, it appears to me like that's going to open up the doors to somewhat more unique styles in addition to what we already got in the last film. I think this is going to be like beautiful and exhilarating all over again.
Yeah, because the first thing we get is him kind of tumbling into a new universe. And did we get that cartoonish animation that they show in this clip in the first one? I don't believe so.
I wonder if the other universe that he's going into will be completely done in that style, and the way that we saw Miles exist in his own world in the first film is restricted to that world.
Right.
It's like, we got pops of other styles in different ways, but I think, like, to me this looks like he is falling into maybe Gwen's universe, and that has a different look to it, which makes a whole lot of sense to me.
I love that. I think that's the biggest aspect of it. They knew that Into the Spider-Verse was, the animation alone was one of the drawing factors of it, and it just looked dazzling gorgeous. You watch it and you're just like, your jaw drops. So they had to take that element and they had to make that something different in the second one to like continue that and further that, because they knew what boundaries they were pushing and they wanted to do it again. And like that's the biggest thing I get from this teaser, because like realistically it is just a short glimpse of it. We just see Spider-Man getting back in action in a way.
It's pretty meaty though. It's not like a teaser along the lines of the Texas Chainsaw teaser.
No. We can get to that later. But it looks so good, and like that's the thing. I watch it, it's comfort, and it just takes me back to Into the Spider-Verse and just feeling that good again.
The only thing that makes me feel better about how long we have to wait for that movie is that I could be rewatching Mitchell's versus the Machines over and over until then.
Also amazing.
Also beautiful.
I was
they know what they're doing. Team over there. I'm very impressed by them.
It's just clear, crisp. It looks so unique, and it doesn't look like other things that are happening. Like Pixar very much has its own style, and it like works for them, and it does. It works tremendously. It looks great most of the time. But what they're doing over here, again, Mitchell's and Into the Spider-Verse, it very much, it almost looks like stop motion-y at points, like it, at least Into the Spider-Verse. Like the movement is a little jagged, but that also gives it like a weird charm, and everything they're doing is tremendous.
I hear you. You said stop motion, and it just immediately brought me back to Big Mouth. We have another little piece from Ryan String here. Box office experts are now predicting a domestic opening weekend of 190 to 250 million for Spider-Man No Way Home. So who knows what could happen? I mean, when Fandango puts out a report about its opening day sales like that, you're going to bump up the range to something a little closer, and that would bring us closer to Endgame. So
that's crazy. I mean, anything can happen. I'm not counting anything out.
Big numbers right there.
So I will count nothing out. But if it does somehow even catch close to Endgame, I will be so shocked. And again, that's not a comment on quality. That's not a comment on any of that. It's just the situation we're in trying to get there.
All right. We got one more super chat before we launch into our Nightmare Alley review.
Right,
hey, Matt and Perri, I'm going to New York next month for the first time. I always try to go to a theater when I go on vacation. Where should I go when I'm there? I'm assuming you mean a movie theater. So.
Well, the first thing,
Alamo Drafthouse.
Well, I was going to say the Alamo just opened a new one in Manhattan. So that is going to be. Listen, I love my Alamo Drafthouse. I love going there for festivals. I love going there for movies. It's just a nice environment to watch a movie in that I've just really fallen comfortable into. Also, the food is great and the drinks are great. So it's like everything about it's good. So I would say if you're going to a movie theater, if that's what you're talking about, the Manhattan Alamo Drafthouse has a pretty cool new printing press vibe for their bar, because every Alamo has a distinct bar created just for the area. So this one is going to like newspapers and printing presses of the olden days in New York. So that looks really cool.
I want to go so badly when I'm home for the holidays.
Well, and a PR person kind of dropped when we were talking to them that like you can use the press, and like they said like you can like print a poster or something like that. So like if there was an interactive element on top of all this in that printing press bar, I'm gonna be so excited to go visit that.
I want in so badly. Thinking about some other theaters that we've actually been to, the Nighthawk is essential to me.
Yeah.
If there's like big multiplexes. Like I think there is even a which I mean, are they still are the AMC and the Regal on 42nd Street still open? Did one of them close, or did I make that up? Or did it just shut down? I don't know. But I'm just, if you're going to Manhattan and you're seeing like a big spectacle, going to one of the 42nd Street theaters or the big one by Lincoln Center is always a good thing.
Nice one. Lincoln Center has like some cool little tidbits in there too from like movie history that's like thrown around. So there's some cool like picture opportunities. And
then for like the smaller theaters, I love going to the Village East. You could see some more independent movies there. I used to spend a lot of time there.
Yeah, and you said Nighthawk. So Nighthawk's in Brooklyn, a little bit out of the way, but like if you can get to Nighthawk, like Williamsburg is also a great area right there to like hang out in. So that would be like a little sideshow for, if you go to a theater in Brooklyn.
Okay, wait, let's get Ryan and then we'll do it.
We just keep getting we'll get to the review once it's not. Yes.
Spider-Verse 2 could perform the same as the first one opening day because I assumed it's coming out on December. It's probably going to face off against Avatar 2 and other movies. Man, why did I want to say that movie comes out October 2022? Or did I completely make that up or confuse that by watching multiple trailers?
I was going to say, I'm not going to correct you on that one.
I mean, why am I guessing when I literally have the article in my hand? Yeah, no, I'm actually right. October 2022.
Okay, so October 2022. Yeah. Actually, that's great. It's going up against like Horror Fair. Like, it's not really going up against like anything else that really is in that genre. Let's say.
Could be good timing. All right. Timing. Let's get into our title topic. Now, we are going to give you a non-spoiler review of Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. Just in case you don't know what the movie is about, Bradley Cooper plays a man named Stan who gets involved with
carnies.
Yeah, and specifically mentalism.
Yes.
And learning about that end of their industry and changing as an individual as he learns more about it. And I'll just leave it. It's a really hard movie to actually create a synopsis for because I don't want to step too far.
I mean, I think that's all pretty known in the trailer. I don't think you're really
an ambitious carny with a talent for manipulate. Well, now it went too far. Like I was trying not to give you any sense of his character.
But like that's the idea of the movie. It's the idea that he is in a carnival system that, like, listen, we all know they're
this is very spoilery. I don't like this IMDb synopsis.
But I mean, to talk about Nightmare Alley, we have to talk about the fact that, like, this is a movie about, Bradley Cooper's character going into a carnival scenario, and learning the tricks of the trade. That means learning the tricks of how to do these things. Like yes, the mentalists aren't really real. They just have ways of doing it themselves, and they have hand signals and things like that. So we'll leave it there and like what happens after, but that's all very early in the movie. So like I don't think that's
no, that wasn't. But like if you read the rest of this, and it's like I don't want to go too far into how his character evolves throughout the movie, but I have never seen the original movie, but I did read the book, and I can't say I loved the book when I read it. And I think a lot of the reasons why I didn't like the book are still true of the movie. It's like when I finished the book, I wasn't super into it, but I was very excited by the idea of Guillermo del Toro, of all filmmakers, bringing it to life on screen again. Yeah. I just thought it really suited his typical style and what I know he is very, very good at. But when I say they both have the same problem, Stan is like a really hard main character to engage with emotionally. And I think while I was reading the book, I felt very detached from a lot of the characters. There was something about their emotional journeys that felt very hollow and empty to me. Yeah. And I had that same feeling watching this movie. And, maybe it's just the manipulative nature of the people involved. And that just makes it tougher for me as a story consumer to get as engaged as I like to be. But something wasn't quite working in that respect. And I think the pacing of the movie overall, it's like, if I can't have that connection, at least give me a story that kind of flies forward and has that momentum and has that building suspense. And it didn't quite have either. And so even though there are elements that I like that I'll get to, those two things really, really hurt me in Guillermo del Toro's movie. And I think I felt the same thing while I was reading the book.
Okay. That's fair. So I'm coming at this without the book or movie knowledge. I came to Nightmare Alley just seeing GDT's Nightmare Alley, so that's where I'm coming from. I echo the same sentiments about it being a little more hollow with those emotional arcs and things of that nature. And I'll go a little bit further by saying we all know that Guillermo del Toro is so good at telling stories about like monsters, and telling stories specifically about like, you know, really generating empathy and like dealing with these dark themes, but dealing them in a really beautiful way. So like he's made many movies about that, and I don't think any of that comes through on Nightmare Alley. Like it's the first time he's felt uncomfortable with the monsters that like he surrounded himself with, and I think it's a huge issue because it leads to those moments where, you know, there aren't monsters. We're talking about humans here, but there are some very complicated characters, and the complication that he usually is able to make so resonant and like, you know, the way he tells our stories and it's so easy to like understand them, it was kind of non-existent here. And all the characters, especially I think Stan, a lot of people are saying like Bradley Cooper did a great job in the performance. I actually don't think he brings much to it, and I actually think he's pretty much like
I don't think it's his fault though. I think that's how the role is written.
Yeah,
it's like his version of Stan in this movie, and not that this makes it right or wrong, but what he delivers in that role in this film is what I read in the book, and so is what I assumed that I would get. But
yeah,
like the problem, I think, for me at least, is that there isn't much complexity in that role. Like I knew the path he was on from the second I met him. And again, that doesn't have to do with me reading the book. I think that is what the character is. But I was also regretting having read the book based on our screening experience, because there were a couple of moments where there was like a collective gasp or like, oh, whoa, or something like that. And I couldn't quite take part in it because like I felt like I was too many steps ahead and I kind of knew what was going on. And I don't know.
Well, and like I understand that, and I mean I can tell you from not reading the book, I was not surprised by anything. Like everything that happened there was exactly what GDT telegraphed. And
again, it's that too.
Yeah, so I go as far to say there is such an engagement and vitality in Del Toro's movies usually, and again he's dealing with these topics that are dark and deep and, you know, kind of upsetting at points, but he's always found a way to like certainly romanticize them in some movies, but still deal with them in a way that like makes them very relatable. And Nightmare Alley feels like like he's fighting his best instincts as a director. Like what we like about GDT doesn't shine in this movie at all for me. And that's like engagement. That's vitality. It just feels like a very surface value noir that he creates, but he never gets into the world itself. Like he never like, it doesn't feel like a developed Del Toro movie. And I think production design is brilliant. I think that is amazing. And there are so many very good performances. So like the ensemble's amazing across most of the board, and the production value is great. My last thing I'll say is I was not impressed by the cinematography. I think that like Del Toro working with cinematographer usually has such a keen visual eye, and while I think the production design it elevates so many things, I think the cinematography is kind of like hazy and murky in so many points, and I really didn't think it was all that special.
Okay, I'll disagree with you on that. I thought the atmosphere and the visuals of the film were some of the high points. I thought it was absolutely beautiful, and even though I wasn't getting swept up in the story and the character arcs, I did from top to bottom genuinely enjoy looking at the movie. And, you know, I kind of get what you're saying about it not really tapping into what makes Del Toro a special filmmaker when he brings something to life. There was some of that vitality missing, but the one thing, and I tweeted this, the one thing that I find in every single movie he has ever made is somehow it radiates off the screen that he's so passionate about what he's doing. It's like I could feel every single step of the way just that desire to bring it to, and like sometimes it just doesn't pan out. Making a movie is hard, and it involves a lot of people and it involves a lot of steps. And even in that case, I don't think it all came together in the end, obviously, for Nightmare Alley, but I could still feel the passion behind it. And I think that particular quality will always keep me at least engaged enough in anything Guillermo makes, which is a big reason why he's one of my favorite filmmakers.
Yeah, and I think another thing that I will bring up that is a huge knock against it, and it's something that people who have seen the original kind of has said. So I'm echoing my friend Rob Hunter in this, but he's like, listen, like this is a pretty good adaptation, but if you watch the original 47 film before Del Toro's, he's like, the original film has a harsher emotional impact and actually does better storytelling with 40 less minutes.
Maybe
and
that's
a big thing. Like, this movie feels long. I hate to say it, but to me, like, this movie feels really long. And that goes into the passion thing that you just brought up, which is a huge thing. I agree with you. Del Toro's movies are oozing with passion, and it radiate is a good word. Like, it radiates off the screen. And this just kind of felt like he was going through the motions of putting a noir on screen, and it's like something he was kind of just like happy to do, but not something that
I see. Like that I didn't feel in this.
I
could feel him trying and caring every step of the way.
I was exhausted by the end. Like, literally, like, I was exhausted by the end. And I want to say out loud that I liked this movie enough still. I gave it a positive review, like 3 out of 5, and we'll get there and all that. But like, it just doesn't feel like a Del Toro movie in the way that I want it to. And I'm not saying he has to stay in his lane either. Like, cool, challenge yourself. I just don't think this challenge was one of his better ones.
The pace across the board is just, it's not there. It's a little slow. And I think the moments where it picks up the most involve Cate Blanchett.
100%.
Who,
100%.
I don't know. She feels like she's in a different movie tonally than everyone else. And I wanted to spend more time in her movie. Yeah. It was also the issue of, I think a lot of the performances are fine, just to run through some of them. But when it came to Bradley Cooper and Rooney Mara's chemistry, I didn't feel it very much, and that causes a pretty big issue for the second 2/3 of the film.
Right.
Like, I was enjoying myself the most when Stan was first getting there and learning the lay of the land and getting some behind the scene details from the other people there. And I had, not to keep comparing it to the book, but I had the same response to the book. All of that stuff I was very, very into. And then when he left that space and started to use those things in the outside world, and the thing is, if you explain that concept to me, like, just gave me a lot, like, guy goes here and then he uses these skills for this purpose, I think it's a brilliant story, and it's something that should really suit my taste in storytelling. But like, there is something about Stan's journey in the second, in the second act and the third act to me that just like didn't hook me like I would expect a story like that to do.
Yeah, I do want to point in the cast though too, because the cast, even outside Blanchett, I mean, I think Defoe's doing good stuff. I do think, like,
I wanted more Toni Collette.
Right, Toni Collette is playing a psychic, and again, like, one of the psychics that is helping Bradley Cooper's character a little bit, let's say. And her on screen is amazing. The way that she's able to play, like, the performative showmanship and like the theatrics of being a psychic, but also then like be like just like the pull of the drag on the cigarette afterwards, and just being like the tarot card reader who knows what's up and is still just like, I believe some of the stuff. I know I'm grifting on the side. It's a nice real duality there. So there are a lot of really good performances in here. And I do think the overshadowing of, well, actually most of them overshadow Cooper and Rooney Mara, which is kind of, that romantic angle didn't do much for me. And I know we're supposed to, we're supposed to feel bad for her at some points. Like, she's obviously the victim in the scenario. And I had a hard time buying everything that was going on there. It's like the immediate falling in love and just all the things. It just wasn't sold in a way that, again, like Del Toro made us love a relationship between a woman and a fishman. So, like, we know he could do all these things. And
that movie is,
and that's the thing, like, that movie has like such a sparkle and a shine, and there's darkness to it though. That's the thing. I'm not expecting Del Toro's bleakest movies to like just be bleak. I want a little more of like Del Toro's still humanity in there. And I don't know. I feel like Nightmare Alley just wasn't up his alley.
I don't want to like sit here comparing the two movies, but I keep thinking about the Michael Shannon character from Shape of Water, and like he's the bad guy. But the thing that movie does is, I think it at least justifies all of his decisions and actions from his perspective. And I think that Stan, as presented in this movie, has a lot less motivation that I bought into.
Yeah.
It's like I don't need to be rooting for him to get what he wants, but I need to get caught up in his drive. And I didn't feel that here, but I can feel that in a villain character like Michael Shannon in Shape of Water.
Yeah, agreed. Any thoughts on the actual score there, because like the score to me was good. I think it was a good score.
Yeah.
Like it kind of picks up when it needs to, but it still lulls in like the carnival scenes, especially like playing around in that kind of musical element. I think those do a lot better than later in the film when we get to New York City. I think that's actually a main comment for me. Like the film is always at its best in the carnival aspects of it and the more rural aspects, and then when we get to New York City,
my reaction to the book too.
When we get to New York City, it kind of just like goes on a downslide, and that's even saying that's where we meet Richard Jenkins' character, who is someone that we won't get into much because he's really in the last third of the movie, let's say, maybe the last half. But his performance is one of the best in the movie. And he basically hires Bradley Cooper, and I'm not going to get much into it, but he hires Bradley Cooper's character to be like, help me talk to someone that I want to talk to beyond the grave. And again, Bradley Cooper is a grifter, and he agrees to it. And that should be such a tense scenario. And Richard Jenkins is doing all the heavy lifting in those scenes.
That's another thing. I feel like Bradley Cooper's Stan isn't scary.
No.
I wanted him to be like more menacing or scary, threatening.
But he's a coward though, in a way. So like, I don't think he's supposed to be scary though. That's the thing. Like Richard Jenkins is supposed to be scary.
Maybe I'm explaining that wrong. Like I wanted as an audience member, I think, to feel more fear in terms of like what he's capable of, or rather what he's willing to do.
He's such a nice man though. That's the whole point of it. He's such a nice man, and like you don't expect.
But that's where it would come from. The understanding that he can present as that, but he's really manipulative and doing something else. And I don't know. I guess without the fear of knowing what he's capable of and feeling it, that takes away from the tension of the movie. And I actually, now that I'm saying it, I didn't feel much tension the entire way.
I know. I agree with you.
I felt the most tension in the first act with a particular choice that his character
that we can't
makes.
Get into, obviously.
But I'm not going to spoil this thing for you, but there's a perfect example of something that I thought really worked well that I knew happened in the book. I knew he did this to this person, but while I was watching it in the movie, I still felt for him. I felt like I saw it coming, and I knew the steps he took. But it still hurt when it happened. And then I think that later on in the film, knowing things wound up hurting because the foundation necessary to get those emotions out of me wasn't there anymore.
So, all right. Off the top of your head, like we'll wind this down.
Yeah.
3 biggest takeaways from Nightmare Alley.
My God, that's like really putting me on the spot.
I'll do it too. I'll put myself on the spot. But like, we had a lot of thoughts. So like, distill it. Like, what are the 3 biggest things?
Honestly, like, I'm not going to make this concise now because I'm stressing a little bit because the more I talk about it, the more I do not like this movie and would rather not watch it again. So now I'm thinking about my score too, and I'm very much teetering in the middle because I do think there's a lot of elements in the movie to praise. Specifically, I love the atmosphere, the production design, the cinematography, and the lighting in this movie is phenomenal. I would rewatch the movie simply to look at it.
Okay.
So I think the technical elements are something that I would praise. I would also give a whole lot of love to Cate Blanchett, who just like lights up the screen exactly when I needed her to. And I don't know, if more of the movie felt like that, I think it would have been a very, very good watch. But it's very, very slow and felt very, very hollow to me. That was 3 things.
That was 3, exactly. That was perfect.
I did it.
I think I'm going to go with, you're watching this for the ensemble, number 1. I mean, the ensemble is tremendous, as we've just been talking about. And specifically, let's call out Cate Blanchett. Everyone's going to do that, and it's deserved. She is just killing this movie. And I'm going to say Richard Jenkins. Like, those are my 2 favorite performances. But again, you have Defoe, you have Toni Collette, like even Clifton Collins Jr. just being there.
He's so cool. He needs to get more love for everything he does. Is anybody out there watching Jockey? Please go watch that movie that he headlines and he's excellent in. That's a movie that someone should be up for award consideration for, but because it's not being released by a major studio, it's not going to get any attention.
So that's my number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go with the production design is fantastic. Cinematography, again, did not work for me. I think some people are going to have problems with it because it is this like hazy, burnt overtone, but it doesn't really have much pop in my point of view. The times it does show in the best elements is whenever there's snow involved. There's some scenes where some windows break and there's a fight and snow comes into like a New York penthouse, and that's really cool. There's also a scene later where there is some horror influence and some snow, and let's say the
like
the
that.
white and red plays well together. So that works. But again, for me, the cinematography didn't do much. So production design, yes. Cinematography, no. And then, damn, this movie is too long. This movie is absolutely too long for how shallow it is and kind of how tedious it can be at times. And it's fun to watch the trickster vibe, and it's fun to really engage with the carnival elements. And I just never felt the dread that I wanted to feel throughout this movie, because we are watching something that, it is a man that is playing the tricks on everyone, let's say, and he's just like getting what he wants. And there's a lot to say in that final scene. There's a lot to say in what Del Toro ends with, but I didn't feel much of it. We can talk about what it meant to be, and we can talk about how it should have landed, but the way it lands, I just kind of was like, I don't know. I just don't think this was a movie for Del Toro. I'm going to say that out loud. I don't think this was a movie for Del Toro. And I don't know. I still liked it. I'm still happy I watched it once. I will not revisit this. And I actually, somebody in here did say they want us to watch the remake, or sorry, the original one, and like see if our opinions change. And I'm actually afraid to watch the original one now, because I think I might not like this one as much either.
Okay. So rating it on a scale of Dewey's, you said you gave it a 3 out of 5?
I'm sticking with a 3 out of 5. Right. So let's go Dewey's, because that for me is my right on the edge. Man. If it goes 2.5, it's negative. It's still positive for me. I think there is a lot of good in there, but I just wish it was shorter.
I'm like real stressed.
You might be a 2.5 now.
I'm real stressed about this. I do.
Yeah.
I think I just can't deny it. It hurts my heart a little, because I'm always rooting for Guillermo, and I think he has an undeniable spark that is purely him in all of his films that will always keep me coming back for more. But this one just didn't quite do it for me, even though there are certain elements that I like. So it's just the overall package is not quite there. So I think I got to do it. I'm going 2.5 Deweys out of 5 on the Dewey Decimal movie scale.
I'm like right there with you. I just found a little bit more that I was okay with, but that was my struggle too. My struggle was, I'm like, am I the 2.5 or the 3 here? And ultimately writing my review helped, because I was able to write about the things I liked so much. And I was like, screw it. Like what Richard Jenkins is doing here and stuff, like that is what gave me the 3. Okay. But I could tell the more you talked about it. I was waiting for your grade, because I was like, I could tell with the way you were talking about it.
I drove home that night very disappointed, but sometimes that happens when you go to see the new movie from one of your favorite filmmakers and it doesn't meet expectations. That disappointment can be more intense than how you really felt about the film, but I maybe it wasn't in this case.
I'm going to bring this up really quickly, because this is a fair question, and I saw some tweets that surprised me on the post reaction.
Well, the post reaction seemed like it was like
divided,
two extreme opposite ends of the spectrum and very little in the middle.
But so the tweet that struck me the most is Clayton Davis is doing for Variety. He's their awards coverage, correct? I believe. Yeah. So like Clayton Davis is on all of this stuff, and I actually use his basically all the sheets he creates on Variety to kind of do my voting, so I know everything in contention. And his tweets right after this, and he's one of like the people reporting the most on this award stuff, were that production design is a lock. He says production design's done, and that's Nightmare Alley.
I kept it in my production design predictions.
And he also said there's 2 movies that in Nightmare Alley, and the way he described it is there's the movie that he thinks Del Toro gets a Best Director nomination for, and the movie that Bradley Cooper gets a Best Actor nomination for.
I took them both out.
I was going to say, like, I'm with you.
I also took the movie out of my Best Picture rankings as well.
I think there's a world where this gets a Best Picture nomination. I think it hits the right Academy voters.
I think this is the kind of movie that maybe gets some, very positive reactions from critics the first screening. And then when it gets its wide release, there's going to be too much mix, and all that hype will start to fizzle out. And then other things that really do resonate with more moviegoers will take hold, and that'll keep the talk going. And that'll get it closer to nominations and wins. Yeah. So I have basically taken Nightmare Alley out of almost, I think I've taken it out of every single category that isn't a technical category on Gold Derby.
So we had to do our voting for my Critics Association, and one of the addendums was after you've seen Nightmare Alley, if anything changes, because like obviously I'm not going to vote for Nightmare Alley because I hadn't seen it yet, so I couldn't. The people running things knew that as well, so they're like West Side Story, Nightmare Alley, and a few more films. They're allowing us to change our voting a little bit. On the back end. It's interesting. But anyway, so like the whole point I'm just trying to get to is I had the chance to change my voting for Nightmare Alley, and I watched it and I literally did not change anything. Like that's That was my takeaway.
Yeah.
And that was a big takeaway for me, to be like, there's nothing in here that I think deserves. Blanchett was the only thing I kind of wavered on, but looking at the other nominees,
that's not happening in that category, and I don't think it should, with what is likely going to get nominated there. But I hate to say it, but I feel like the reason why we're even discussing Nightmare Alley for Oscars in certain categories is because it's his next film after The Shape of Water. And I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It happens every single one of my favorite things about being on Gold Derby is I love that part of the season where no one's seen anything, but you have to rank things to give people the idea of what could be coming and what you should keep an eye on. And then when I get to the end of the season and I've got all my final rankings, and then I compare the two, the one that always comes to mind is that year that the Goldfinch came out, and the Goldfinch was in every category, and then we all saw it at TIFF, and it's like, bye Goldfinch.
Yeah, Goldfinch is gone. Yeah, it's not the earth shaker that Shape of Water, or again, a lot of his movies are. I think Del Toro is so talented, and I am just unfortunately disappointed.
What is your favorite Del Toro movie? I'll just say mine's Shape of Water. I like a lot of his movies, but Shape of Water was just a total game changer for me. Not for him, but in general with cinema. I love that movie.
I would have to rewatch things on the spot. I don't know if I could rate that, because Shape of Water is very good. Don't get me wrong, but God damn, I'm a sucker for his Hellboy stuff and stuff like that.
I get it.
That's a hard thing for me. I'd have to rewatch some.
I like Hellboy. I like Pac Rim.
There's some things that I'd wanna. I don't think Pac Rim is my favorite. I don't think that's up there for me. It's
not near my favorites, but I could watch that movie over and over and over again.
Ooh.
Well.
Curiosity.
What are your thoughts on the National Board of Review naming Licorice Pizza Best Film of 2021 and Paul Thomas Anderson for Best Director? I mean, I love the movie, so I'm all for it.
Well, I'm saying, is that a predictor though in the sense of things? Or?
I think I've been one of few on Gold Derby who have kept Licorice Pizza as my number one for Best Picture since I've seen it. I don't think there's many others left with it like that, but I feel like that honor, put a little more weight behind my choice to stick with it.
My thoughts on the movie aside, I was talking to somebody. I was talking to Matt last night. So Matt from the Patreon stuff. So I was talking to Matt, and we were talking about what we thought might have a chance. And I really do think there's a world where Licorice does win Best Picture. I think
I could see it.
That's my outlier pick. It's not my. I think Belfast is the boring pick to me. I want to say it that way. I think if the Academy goes the boring route and does the usual thing, I think Belfast wins. I think Licorice Pizza is the outlier that could win, but doesn't have the best chance.
I'm gonna watch it again. I feel like I've said this on the show, so I don't have to be so nervous to say it, but I think that Belfast is a little overrated.
I agree. Oh, I agree with you.
Overrated.
That's why I said it's the boring pick.
Someone on Twitter got real big mad at me because I had it lower down and wrote a really hot what is wrong with you? Don't you see that it's at the top of everybody? I'm why isn't it at the top of your list? I'm well. Because I'm trying to predict how the rest of its journey is going to go, and I think it's overrated, and I think it's going to fizzle a little.
I think Belfast is a perfectly fine movie created to win awards.
Yeah.
I think that is it happens every year. We know the awards bait, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way.
Well,
there is such a thing called awards bait, and
it's what I was saying earlier about the beginnings of Gold Derby. Things are packaged in a way that will suggest it could be an Oscar contender. It's not necessarily, made with that sole purpose to win awards. It's more just the group of people that get together are indicators of what something's potential is.
There's a super chat in there somewhere.
I know. I saw it up top.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Was that?
Okay. Yes, that one. Yep.
Wiley Todd is here. I loved everything from the original, and my favorite character for the OG one was Molly. So I hope she's good, and I love the monster in it.
I think Molly is good in it because I like the character of Molly. I just think she gets the short end of the scripted stick. Let's say. I don't think
I get it.
She gets a lot to do in the unfortunate scenario. So that is the way I'll say it. I love Rooney Mara. I think. Again, going back to the carnival at Nightmare Alley, that is the best stuff. When Molly is the character doing the electrocution stuff, she is so good in that role. And then I know we're supposed to see her in another light when she goes to New York, and that's the whole point of it. I don't think it's poorly. I don't think it's explored the right way. Also, I think there's an interesting thing over here. Hide current comment. I just want to bring up West Side Story because that's another one to me that intrigues me because I think Spielberg has every chance in the world to win Best Director for that movie because he is so goddamn good at what he does. But Ansel Elgort is so bad that I don't think that movie has a shot for Best Picture. That's literally how I call it out. That movie is so good in so many ways, but Ansel Elgort is so bad that movie does not get a Best Picture nom.
I'm having the opposite effect with West Side Story, where the further I'm removed from my screening, the more I love it, and I really love a lot of the performances. But he just sticks out like a sore thumb in a cast of really extremely talented singers and dancers and actors. Man,
he is miscast horribly, horrendously. Every scene that he is in, what he's trying to do,
it just doesn't work.
No reveal, but if you've seen West Side Story, you know that Ansel Elgort has the emotional crux scene of the entire climax of West Side Story. And Amelia said it, I said it, I was trying not to laugh during that moment because he is so bad at conveying the tragedy and trauma that happens in that scene. It's hilarious in a way, and it shouldn't be. That's the problem. It shouldn't be that.
I told you the one scene that bothers me. There's a scene where he's supposed to cry and he makes a cry face, but then covers his cry face and goes into the corner, and it feels it's trying to hide something.
Yeah, he can't cry on command.
I don't know if that's the blocking he was instructed to do, but it didn't play right to me.
So yeah,
didn't play right.
That is my take on West Side Story in the shortest sense. That we can't get into it more, or I don't know,
if you want. I mean, we were talking about award season stuff too. Yeah. I'm predicting that Ariana DeBose is going to sneak into the Best Supporting category, even though Rita Moreno is getting a lot of talk right now, and I think that's totally justified too. I'd love to see them. Man, I was just about to say I'd love to see them both get in there, but then my mind just went through the people that I would have to remove from the category.
I think unfortunately Rita's the one that doesn't get in for me. With what you're talking about, it's
so you think Ariana DeBose would have a shot of getting in? But
I think she has a better. I think she has a better. In my opinion,
if one or the other gets it, I'm fine.
I think so. What I'll say, I think West Side is going to be up there for production design as well. That production design is crazy. What they get into, they rebuild New York City in so many scenes, and old school New York City too. So the way that they get into it, I think it's phenomenal. And Spielberg for director is on the tip of my tongue.
I think he's going to get the nomination. I don't think he's going to get the win. I don't think he's
everything about West Side Story that I don't. He's such a unique filmmaker for our times that there are so few people that can do what he does in the way that he does it. I'm not saying he's the only good filmmaker that we have in modern times. I'm just saying that Steven Spielberg makes it look easy and effortless, and I don't know how he does it. He's mastered the art of the blockbuster.
Where do I find my own? I'm not used to looking at Gold Derby on my phone, but I wanted to find you guys my predictions.
So it's not even that Elgort can't dance. It's that Elgort is just outshined by everyone on such a laughable degree. He just does stick out. He doesn't look like anyone in the film. He has no comparison. He's just there, and it looks like he's trying to keep up, and it's not a good look.
He's, in the grand scheme of things, he is probably someone who could be defined as a pretty good singer and dancer. 100%. It's just that the people around him are probably some of the best in the world. Mike Feist is my new obsession. I think he's so incredibly talented.
What do you think about Denis for director?
I think he's going to get the nomination. I do think he's going to get the nomination. I'm just going to give up because apparently I can only look at collective.
I'll get to this super chat in 1 second. I just saw this and I want to do it. Is there any Tragedy of Macbeth? I think is just getting its first screening, so it's really just kind of building up. I'd say watch out for talk on Tragedy because people still have Tuesday. I haven't seen it yet. Perri hasn't seen it yet. We've only had 1 or 2 opportunities so far, but I think that's one to keep an eye on because critics have only started to see a little bit of it.
I'm seeing it next Thursday.
Come on came out this weekend, and no one's talking about it. I really think this is getting buried, and unfortunately, I think this is one of those ones that I have the screener sitting over here, and I will gladly watch, and I will gladly get to it. But I've heard so little about it, I'm kind of putting it off. But the things I've heard about it on so little that it's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
So it's such a hard thing of what you have to prioritize, and unfortunately, I don't think they're pushing Come On as hard as they should.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the season. It's part of the season, and it's part of what paves the way to awards. Is you need that put, and it's it's like a bit of a sad truth of the industry, and I feel like that's why a movie that I love like Mass is going to peter out because. You can't compete with the machine like a Netflix and a Disney and all that.
I voted
Sometimes
for Mass
you have
so
things that break through, but that love can only go around so much, and it's a little.
I voted for Mass so many times in ours, and I think we actually did give Mass a little bit of love in our nomination. So I'm really hoping.
I waited for so long before I took Mass out of my Best Picture nomination prediction, and I have 2 actors left, but
I think Isaacs is our best shot. I really do think that.
Keep enduring there.
I think they all deserve it. You know that. I love Mass.
I want all 4 of them to get nominations. Now I'll be lucky if just one of them gets a nomination. Hello. Lewis. How are you doing? All right. Nightmare Alley opens on the same day as Spider-Man No Way Home. Is it a good idea to leave it there? Greetings from X-Cali.
I think so.
I don't think it matters.
That's the way to put it, I think. For those 2 movies, I think
they're going after different audiences, and sometimes when you have like a big juggernaut of a film, like a Spider-Man No Way Home, people will go to the theaters and won't be able to get tickets, and then maybe that'll encourage them to see what else is playing and to check something out that they might not have. So, sometimes when you've got a big movie coming out, yes, it could eat up a lot of the box office, but it could also bring more people to a theater than would have been there otherwise. So there is that kind of silver lining to it.
I think that's a fair way to put it.
They're going for different viewership.
I agree. I think those don't cannibalize their own audience. I think you're okay there.
I feel like I wanted to say something else award season wise. Man, I really want to look at my predictions.
Yeah, well, I think this is also fair too. Netflix really does pick and choose what they want to throw their money at because we all see the boxes that they send out and stuff like that, and really you get like 4 or 5 boxes for a single movie, and then you just get like an envelope with a screener for another one. And
like what?
Power of the Dog, they've sent a bunch of there's just they're really putting.
That. If they have an award season team and they're trying to put their energy and their resources behind something that is deserving, I'm all for it. It's when, things like The Five Bloods get shortchanged over other things that felt less deserving to me. But I feel like they're...
You mean like Trial of Chicago 7, me getting a table book and all that stuff, and then... The Five Bloods comes like literally a week before voting, and it's just a DVD.
I don't love Trial of the Chicago 7. But I think,
it is very.
I think Power of the Dog is quite good, I think they're smart to be pushing that. I think it ticks the deserving and has good chances boxes.
We finally got the screener of it, so we'll finally jump into it soon. But
I'm so excited! I want Cody Smith-McPhee to get nominated so badly, and I think he's gonna. Yeah, I think he could even win it in that category.
All right. It's also important to say that we are also very privileged to get these boxes and stuff like that. So it's it's complaining in one way, but again, we're all in the critics guilds and we're all doing this stuff, and we are still so appreciative of what we do get. But it is a funny thing to see that on the other side. It's funny to see how the studios value their movies and what they put their money into and how they do it. And the craziest swag I get, my favorite swag so far this year, I think it's fair to talk about, is The Harder They Fall gave me a new leather bound flask and little shot glasses. And I was like, you know what? I just need a new flask anyway. So
you know what I like even more than that? I like the character cards that they sent out, because I finally watched it. I missed it when it came out. And then, I got wrapped up in other things, but I watched it on the plane on the way back to LA. That movie is real good, and I love that cast of characters and those actors. So when the cards, that's something that really excites me, when I fall so hard for your characters and then you send me something like that where it's not necessarily a thing like a mug, but it's something that celebrates the movie and the content in it and their work. I love that.
Actually, I take it back. One of my favorite things that I got is Mitchell's vs. Machines sent the little wooden moose, and we have just, I have the wooden moose just sitting there.
That's so cool. I would like to see that.
It's so nice. I'll get it right now. It's literally right up there. But I mean, again, we are so lucky with what we do, and it is just such an interesting thing to see that, from the other side.
Yes. This is another one I'm rooting very, very hard for. Tick, Tick, Boom. Oh, Andrew Garfield better get that nomination.
I think he has nomination.
That movie is very likely in my top 10. That is adorable. Now I'm a little jealous I didn't get that box. I'm also a little panicked that a box was taken while I was away.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It makes me very nervous. That's very cute.
What if the moose just sits here?
I'm fine with that. Are you guys okay with that? It ruins the focus a little, but I'm fine with this.
I'm leaving it like this.
I love that movie
screen
so
capping
much.
this very quickly.
Okay.
But also The Harder They Fall, I would love to see that production design get something. It's not going to. I 100%. It's not going to get anything.
Can you do another one? And can I
hold on. You can pet the moose. But I think if you haven't seen,
doesn't quite work.
If you haven't seen The Harder They Fall yet, it's really fun. It's a really fun, a modern take on a Western in a way, let's say, because it kind of, it's an all-black cast.
The music cues in that movie are so good.
The biggest thing I keep seeing is that it's trying to be Quentin Tarantino, but no, it's not.
No.
It's literally its very own film, and the fact that it has similarities to Django Unchained, which are very thin alone.
I don't know.
I
feel like you could say it's trying to be I was about to say Western. I guess I'm trying to get at the point where it's you're using a very broad idea of a Quentin Tarantino movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not forget that most of Quentin Tarantino's movies are just inspirations of other movies. Him creating Django is an ode to spaghetti Western. So it's Quentin doesn't own that. Literally, that's a whole genre of film.
This would be cool. I'd be very happy if this happened. If Harder They Fall.
That's okay. That I really do want. I do agree with that. The ensemble itself, I think that would be a great poll for the ensemble. So straight up, if they can do that, that would be the recognition I like.
I would like to see
The Harder They Fall is so very cool because it's very much playing with the idea that it's a mostly main black cast, and then they get to this white town at one point, and it's literally whitewashed. The entire town is painted white, and then they do the fun title card of it's a white town and stuff like that. But it feels like a revitalized Western, it's reclaiming a little bit of that time. And I say what you want about what they did with these characters who were real and how they portrayed them. But I don't know, maybe let's just have fun with a Western.
In talking about movies with long running times, this is a movie that uses every second to great effect and does not feel like you're sitting there waiting for it to be it has so much energy to it. And that energy is so catchy, and it's something I want to keep re-experiencing.
Yeah, again, if they ever release
Regina King in that role.
Well, again,
so cool.
Yeah, Adrian just said it. The Regina Zazie Beetz. It's so good. Shaka Mary is such a great character.
That movie makes just talking about that movie is making me real happy.
If they ever get that vinyl, that soundtrack on vinyl, in a minute, that's one I'm not even hesitating.
I'm busy going through all the potential songs for my montage, and I've got a couple in the maybe folder. Yeah. So I'm just I don't know what I'm going to choose yet.
Let's go here.
Have you guys seen Don't Look Up yet? I'm ready for my favorite actor, Jennifer Lawrence, comeback time. Also, when will people be able to see Mass? It's nowhere in Oklahoma. Garfield for the win, please. I can tell you I've seen Don't Look Up. I tweeted about it, and I'll tell you it was a high praise tweet. Good. I'm not allowed to review it just yet. I'll give you a full review soon. I guess, speculate on Jennifer Lawrence's chances, and she's real good in the movie.
Okay.
I just don't think that movie is going to get the
push up,
the actor attention in those categories. Okay. But she's very good.
And then the Mass part, the unfortunate answer to that is Mass came out already. So
limited release movie.
Yeah, it's a limited release movie. You're going to have to wait for it to hit VOD if it's not playing in your area, which is the worst answer ever. And we hate to say that, but you just look for it on VOD basically. So whenever it came out, usually VOD release is maybe 3 months later.
So yeah, it's still entirely theaters. I thought at least it was going to be available on like to buy on rent on Apple or something. We just had someone
say that Mass.
Okay.
So there we go. That's good.
Check it out. There was another part. Oh, Garfield for the win, please.
And I think there's a lot to pick from still.
I wouldn't be upset if that happened. Like I'm feeling really pretty good right now about how happy I'll be with a likely Best Actor win, because I think some of the top ones right now is Garfield, Benedict Cumberbatch for Power of the Dog, so good in that movie.
Yeah.
And I loved King Richard and thought Will Smith was phenomenal in that, so I wouldn't mind seeing him win. It sounds like I'm gonna win no matter who wins.
Yeah, no matter who gets picked there. Yeah. I don't know if I want to see Garfield win. I think to
Why?
me, I like Tick Tick. You like Tick Tick Boom a lot more than I do.
Tick Tick Boom.
I like Tick Tick Boom.
And I loved him in it.
I think him winning then kind of regenerates the conversation of what is best acting versus most acting. I think he's doing a lot like with himself, but I don't know if it's always like the best.
It's a lot with purpose, and he's playing Jonathan Larson.
I agree. I know who he's playing. I
think that is like a pitch perfect performance in every respect. So, and then, like the coolest thing about it is I didn't even know he was capable of that.
Doing what he did.
And then he did that, and he did it so beautifully at least.
I will be happy that he gets a nomination if he wins. He deserves it, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
My first pick, I don't think it would. I have things I still have to see to solidify who my first pick would be, but it would be him.
Fine. I'm going to stop schwitzing now. Lewis is back here. They're showing 40 minutes of Spider-Man No Way Home to the press. Does it mean that there are massive things happening in the film they don't want to get spoiled? Yeah. I don't know about that, about 40 minutes being shown, but like I would imagine that those studios are fearful of like literally every single detail from that movie leaking out. It's just all signs are pointing towards major game-changing things happening to this franchise in this movie. That's why those box office expectations are through the roof. So I would just think that the folks behind the scenes are very, very nervous about spoilers. And, you know, that probably also contributes to the box office, what I'm about to say.
Yep.
See it ASAP so it doesn't get spoiled for you.
Yeah. That's the only way to see a movie like this, because in the culture we live in and how social media is treated, we all know that. It's
hard.
As much as we try to do it, as much as, as journalists, we do our best to hide spoilers. There are other people who don't care about that much. And it could be your best friend that you know forever. And all of a sudden they accidentally tweet something and you're ruined. So that is the unfortunate part of this society at this point in the way we handle culture like that. But again, it's also fair. It's like, listen, once it's released to the public, I think the argument on spoilers is like, well, you had a chance to see it and you didn't, but also it's like, yeah, we also can't see everything in the immediate time you can. I don't know. I don't think there's any winner in that conversation.
I think about it all the time with spoiler coverage right after something is released. But like, one, I understand the business element of it all, but two, it's like, as long as it's something that's avoidable, like if you release a spoiler review the night a movie is released, someone still has the power to not click play. Yeah. You know what I mean? I wanted to know what that was in reference to.
The spoiler conversation.
Oh, all right. I kind of want a little more info on
We'll talk about it later.
There are people who can't go because they have.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh no, absolutely.
For the Disney Plus releases, what Matt said is valid because they're available immediately.
Yes.
But in the theater.
With all access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man, that's not the same.
Well, yeah. That's why you need I guess I'll just call it like the clickable divide.
Yeah.
Like there's no choice in the matter in the business that we work in. You need to release that content so that your business stays alive and doesn't collapse. But you need to have that very clear barrier that doesn't let someone like trip into something that they don't want to see.
Yeah. And not be the variety guy who just puts shit on.
I was going to say, if you want to ruin your career, you can do that. If you want to ruin
it makes me so mad.
I don't know.
One single consequence.
For those who don't know, the guy in Variety saw a press screening and then spoiled Eternals. Like literally spoiled one of the biggest things in Eternals. That's like talking about inside baseball really quickly. Perri, me, or Amelia would not do that in 1,000,000,000 years because we want to get invited back to Disney things. And like, holy crap!
I don't want to ruin anything for anyone.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, there are implications here that go beyond just spoilers. There are implications that like you are now blacklisted for being an idiot, and I don't know if that's worth it. Like, is it?
But like my top priority whenever I cover a movie is to either preserve the experience and or enhance it for other people. Like when I think about my non-spoiler reviews, all I want in the world is to make sure that like you guys get my thoughts, but without ever coming close to ruining something for your first viewing experience. But then when it comes to spoiler content, because we're talking about that, all I want that to do is enhance your experience and up the level of engagement and maybe make you reconsider things and just, I don't know, have those critical conversations together.
And that's what criticism should be. It should be a conversation starter, and there are ways to do that, and there are ways not to do that.
Oh boy, Matt.
I'm just playing with the moves.
It's okay. I'm fine with that. Did we want to hit anything else on your list?
I don't know. You were kind of mad at Leatherface.
Oh, I was so excited for that. I was so pleasantly surprised when I saw that was posted when I first got here, and I didn't notice it. And I don't know. It's just like such a.
For those who don't know, the trailer for the first, let's call it a teaser trailer for the new Texas Chainsaw remake, I believe, correct? Or whatever, however they're approaching it. No,
I think Fede's been calling it a sequel. It's very confusing quotes where he's trying to make it seem like it's a continuation of the original, like something that retcons, but he's also emphasizing that it doesn't retcon things. And he specifically, in quotes I read, referenced Texas Chainsaw 2, which is like tonally so different, but he's basically saying he doesn't want to remove that from canon because people out there love it.
Well, and that's okay. So the thing that I got from the trailer that we saw, for those who have, it's about 1:20 or something. It's online already, and it posted today. And you see Leatherface come back to a house we have to assume is the Sawyer household, and he like goes into the wall where it looks like a chainsaw is hidden, and he pulls it out. So like that to me is the fact that this chainsaw has been hidden. He is coming back now to do something that he's done before. So that's how I got the sequel vibes on that.
So usually when I think about teaser trailers, a lot of times I get annoyed when new releases skip the teaser part. Because I love the idea, especially with a big franchise like that, of a piece that's like, it's back. And you should be excited.
Yeah.
So usually that kind of format will speak to me with something that I love. But everything about that teaser felt so obvious to me. And like there was no style, no unique style to it, you know?
Yeah, just looks like
it's
another.
Like when she's under the floorboards and he's walking, like I know he's gonna stick the chainsaw on the damn floorboard. So like that completely ruined the excitement of that beat.
Yeah, and it's again, it's such a short little glimpse at it. It's like you have such a small time to make that excitement happen, and it's just stuff we've seen before in the franchise. So I'm still holding out because listen, I really do adore Evil Dead. Like whatever the Don't Breathe movies are, they are what they are. But like I really hold Evil Dead highly, so I kind of am very curious to see how he does a sequel adaptation of this. But then again, he called Evil Dead a remake until basically the movie came out. Then all of a sudden we realize it's a continuation, and it becomes that same thing. So
you sent me those quotes. Actually, it's what Fede Alvarez told EW. When I say direct sequel, I wouldn't say it skips everything. When movies do that, sometimes it feels a bit disrespectful, which I understand to all the other films. Some people love Texas Chainsaw 2. I love a lot of things about that movie. It's so wacky and of its time, but the rest is such a mess canon-wise. I think it's up to you to decide when and how the events of the other movies happen. That stresses, like as someone who's neat and organized, that stresses me out a little, but I like the fact that he's trying to be respectful of the fact that likely every movie in that franchise, no matter what I think of it, probably has a fan.
Yeah. And that's, if we want to talk about messy franchises, I mean, Halloween is right there. Like Halloween has so much going on where like characters are killed off on screen, major characters are killed off on screen, and yet they appear movies later. So he has his work cut out for him. And you can read that quote.
This quote, I'm not super behind.
This is again Fede talking about Texas.
It's basically, I guess he's talking about Leatherface and this whole thing. It's basically the same character who is still alive. Our take on it was this guy probably disappeared after everything he's done. How do you catch a guy who has a mask? Once he removes the mask and runs away, it's very easy for him to hide somewhere. Head scratcher, literally. This story will pick up many, many years after the original story. He's been in hiding for a long, long time, trying to be a good person. These people arriving in this town are going to awaken the
Have you seen
trying to be a good person?
All right, so that is bad.
No.
have you seen the Texas Chainsaw movies, at least in the main canon? It's like that Leatherface.
So
he is a troubled soul in the sense that he is played very childish, and like they're definitely playing in a certain way where he doesn't have certain faculties about him. And so the fact that you're saying it's so easy for him to hide is not, because he's so easily manipulated by his family and the Sawyer family throughout that like that's not the character he is. He can't just turn it off like a American Psycho type and go live his life. That's never been a Leatherface trait. Like he makes flesh masks because like that is what he does. He doesn't just stop making them and go fucking work at the supermarket. Like that's not how this works.
Yeah.
That quote scares the fuck out of me. If I'm being completely honest with you. That quote
it does me as well.
Is really bad.
So I've been discussing a TV show lately. I'm not going to give any specifics away, but it's a TV show that I think does redemption arcs especially well, when I think characters have done such terrible things that they can never come back in my mind. Yeah. But the show does such a good job in justifying why they make those choices and gives them valuable journeys that I believe in to redeem themselves. I don't want to see that kind of thing applied to Leatherface. It just makes no sense to me. And it seems like a story path that you will pursue with 100% chance of failure.
Yeah.
LTC. Oh, hi. Wait, but that's not normally what she pops up as, no? I don't know. Maybe they mean Dexter style, like playing it cool as a good person, but that still makes no sense to me.
I struggle just because of, again, the portrayal of Leatherface. I mean, like, if we're connecting to the original franchise, the remake and the beginning definitely take a harder horror stance where they...
Wait, here's another thing. You-ish. I know what you mean by this, but the difference is Leatherface was never a character that we wanted to root for in that sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rooting for well, no, I can even it's different. Like even rooting for Leatherface is different than rooting for Chucky. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think good guy is like literally playing him as a good guy. I understand what they're trying to get there with it by saying like he's just trying to assimilate into society. I mean, the Dexter thing is a good point because it's like he's not a good guy. He's just able to like blend into society. But even at that, that's
blending into society still makes no sense to me at all.
That's not
like,
Leatherface.
Like, Leatherface operates with his family. Like they all do it together, you know? Like now I'm like that quote is making me think about like Leatherface, like slipping off into the woods and like tucking away his chainsaw and like taking off the mask and then just trying to like be an everyday guy. It makes no sense.
How do you look at the dinner scene from the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and be like, that guy just kind of walked away and
just blend in.
Just blend in for a little bit. Don't worry about him.
I don't know. Whatever. I love to be proven wrong 100%. When I have doubts like 100%. This. And if they can make this work, like I will applaud you and tell you that my suspicions were wrong all day long, but I don't see how this works.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrap my head around that now. And like that quote. So like I was okay with it for so long. And that's the quote that I'm like, oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
Oh no. That's
hard
that approach. Like he just walks back. Is like, you've awakened the monster. Like the monster doesn't go away in that character. The way you've written that character throughout history, the monster does not go away like that.
Yeah.
There's no taking off the mask and just like, even the way he vocalizes is meant to be immature and it's meant to be juvenile because that's kind of what he is. He's a big baby without the faculties to be like an adult. And no, that's not how that works. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
I don't know.
Just literally, and also like the teaser and the quote match. I kind of agree with that.
Wait, what?
The teaser and that quote like don't go together. Like you're not putting those movies what you're saying with
that would have been an interesting teaser to me. Like I don't know if it would have convinced me or given me any more hope in the movie based on those quotes, but I still think it would have been a more interesting teaser. Yeah. Like I don't know. I'm just thinking of like you're in a supermarket or something and someone's working the checkout. He's like
bagging groceries.
And it's like, but really it's like an ominous reveal. And then like he goes home and like something's there that's recognizable. And
he's like he's like working at a hardware store. He like scans a chainsaw and all of a sudden he's like, oh.
Like really, for all I know, maybe that would have made it worse. But again, I still think it would have been more interesting than when we got in the actual
That is
teaser.
some silly bullshit. But
I'm trying.
No, I'm not saying that's silly bullshit on your part. I'm just saying
he'd be working in the deli slicing meat.
God damn it. Yes, he would.
Yes.
He'd be working at a barbecue
AJ Post nailed it. That's where he works.
That is... Man, okay. I have a different perspective on this movie now. Sure. I'll watch it, of course. And again, I would love to be proven wrong, but that is where I think he approached Evil Dead correctly. This sounds like the horrendously wrong approach to Texas Chainsaw. Yeah. That is how I'll put it. Yeah. Also, I think things getting sold at this point, I'm not as worried about it.
Oh, that gave me faith, actually.
Yeah. I think a lot of studios are getting gun shy about movies going to theaters, and I think the streaming route is just, they can make their money back by selling it to Netflix, and they don't have to take the gamble. So I think that might be a little bit more worthwhile. Where I don't think we've talked about it over and over again. I think the stigma has diminished of things getting sold to a streamer. Yeah. Streamer, not screener.
Oh, I heard streamer.
That's cool.
It's all good. Anything else you want to hit before we wind this down? We've got our fancy dinner reservations. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. You two are in for a fucking show tonight when I eat that steak.
I'm ready for. I've never seen you get excited really about food, so this is new for me.
So I just can't contain my excitement for this meal that we're about to have.
The moose is happy too. The moose is jumping. Look at him jump. Look at him go.
He's adorable. All right. We will have a normal show next week, right?
We will.
Because you're still here.
I'm still here.
Friday.
I'm still here Friday.
Okay. So Merri Hour will be back to Friday next week. And then we're not going to stop through the holidays. The schedule might be a little different.
We'll figure out how we do things. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to plug anything?
Same as always, at Donata Twitter, Letterboxd, Instagram. I wrote some things for Paste. I wrote some things for Slash Film. I wrote some things for Bloody Disgusting this week. I'm just trying to think of what to watch. So yeah, just follow me on the socials. You'll see what I review, and it's a lot of horror stuff right now. So
I will just plug the Rose McIver Ladies Night because that's the latest one that went up, and I will tease that I'm I won't tell you who it is because I'm afraid I'm superstitious and I'll jinx it, but I'm filming 3, I think, this week and next, possibly 4, and they'd be very, very cool if they all happen. So hope I get to share that with you soon.
I'm glad we have a new angle to film from.
Good boy. All right, we're out of here. Time to eat.